The massive ship appeared over Earth on a Tuesday morning. It was bigger than any city, casting shadows across entire countries as it hung in space like a metal moon. People around the world stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. Park. Sue Jin was drinking coffee in her office at the United Nations building when her assistant rushed in. The young woman's face was pale and her hands shook as she handed over a tablet showing news feeds from around the globe. "Secretary General," the assistant whispered, "they're trying to communicate with us." Park Soo-jin set down her coffee cup and straightened her jacket. She had been the UN Secretary General for 3 years, dealing with wars, disasters, and political crises. But nothing had prepared her for this moment. The alien ship sent a signal to every television, radio, and internet connection on Earth. The message was simple. They wanted to talk to Earth's leaders. They would wait exactly 6 hours for a response. Within those 6 hours, every major world leader flew to New York. The emergency session of the United Nations was unlike anything in history. Representatives from 200 countries sat in complete silence as they waited for humanity's first contact with alien life. Kim Tae-ho arrived at the UN building wearing his military uniform. As the head of Earth's Space Defense Initiative, he had spent years preparing for this day. But his preparation had focused on defending Earth from invasion, not receiving diplomatic visits. He walked through the security checkpoints and found his seat near the front of the assembly hall. His dark eyes scanned the room, noting the positions of security personnel and emergency exits. Old habits from his military days never died. Lee Min-ai sat in the section reserved for scientific advisors. As Earth's leading expert on the possibility of alien life, she had written hundreds of papers about this moment. Her theories about first contact had filled textbooks. Now she would learn if any of her ideas were correct. She opened her laptop and prepared to take notes. Her fingers trembled slightly as she waited for history to begin. Choi Woo-bin stood at the back of the hall with other journalists. Unlike the others, he was not excited. 20 years of investigative reporting had taught him to be suspicious of anyone offering something for nothing. And from what little they knew about this alien visit, it sounded exactly like that kind of offer. At exactly noon, the aliens made contact. The air in the center of the assembly hall began to shimmer. Slowly, a figure appeared as if stepping through invisible water. The being was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large black eyes. It wore a flowing robe that seemed to change colors as it moved. When it spoke, its voice came from speakers throughout the building. Somehow everyone heard the words in their own language. "Greetings, people of Earth. I am Ambassador Kethvar of the Galactic Protection Alliance. We come with an offer that will change your world forever." Park Soo-jin stood up from her seat. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Kethvar. I am Park Soo-jin, Secretary General of the United Nations. We are honored by your visit." The alien's large eyes focused on her. "Secretary General Park, we have been watching your species for some time. Earth sits in a very dangerous part of space. There are threats around you that your people cannot imagine." Murmurs rippled through the assembly hall. Several representatives leaned forward in their seats. "What kind of threats?" Park Soo-jin asked. "Savage raiders who destroy entire worlds for sport. Cosmic horrors that consume everything in their path. Dark empires that enslave peaceful species." Ambassador Kethavar's voice grew more dramatic with each word. "Your small world stands defenseless against forces that have destroyed civilizations far more advanced than yours. Kim Tae-ho frowned. He had spent his entire career studying potential threats to Earth. Their deep space sensors had never detected anything like what the ambassador described. Fortunately, the alien continued, the Galactic Protection Alliance offers salvation. We have protected 847 species from these cosmic dangers. We can do the same for humanity. What would this protection involve? Park Soo-jin asked carefully. We would station our defense fleets around your world. We would provide advanced warning systems and shield generators. We would share our knowledge of the galaxy's dangers and teach you how to defend yourselves. Lee Minnie typed quickly on her laptop, recording every word. Something about the alien's offer felt rehearsed, like a speech given many times before. And in return, Park Soo-jin's voice remained calm and professional. Very little, considering what we offer. We would need access to 60% of Earth's resources to maintain our protection fleet. Your world would need to integrate into our communication and defense networks. And of course, you would follow the Alliance's guidelines for planetary development. The assembly hall erupted in whispers and conversations. 60% of Earth's resources was not a small price. Choi Woo-bin pulled out his phone and began researching. Within minutes, he found references to the Galactic Protection Alliance in old radio signals that Earth's telescopes had intercepted over the years. Every message seemed to involve one species offering protection to another. You mentioned 847 species, Park Soo-jin said. Are they all satisfied with this arrangement? Absolutely. They live in peace and safety under our protection. They focus on art, culture, and peaceful development while we handle the dangerous work of defending them. Kim Tae-ho stood up. Ambassador, can you tell us more about these threats? What exactly are we being protected from? The alien's head tilted slightly. General Kim, there are forces in this galaxy that your people cannot comprehend. Ancient, evils that have plagued space for millions of years, raiders whose technology makes your weapons look like stone tools. But specifically, Kim Tae-ho pressed, what threats exist in this area of space right now? Ambassador Kethvar seemed uncomfortable with the direct question. The threats are various. Different dangers appear at different times. That is why constant protection is necessary. Lee Min-ai looked up from her laptop. The alien's answers were becoming more vague with each question. Can you show us evidence of these threats? She asked. Perhaps sensor readings or historical records of attacks in this region? Dr. Lee, such evidence might cause panic among your population. It is better that you trust our experience in these matters. Park Soo-jin felt a familiar feeling in her stomach. It was the same feeling she got during negotiations when someone was not telling the complete truth. Ambassador Kethvar, she said, slowly. This is a very generous offer, but I must ask directly. Protection from what, exactly? The alien ambassador paused. For the first time since appearing, he seemed uncertain. From the same forces that threaten all peaceful species in this galaxy. Kim Tae-ho started laughing. It began as a small chuckle but quickly grew louder. Soon, several other military advisors were laughing as well. The sound spread through the assembly hall as more and more people began to understand what Kim Tae-ho found so amusing. Ambassador Kethvar's large eyes grew even larger. I do not understand your reaction. Park. Soo-jin tried to maintain her diplomatic composure, but even she was struggling not to smile. Ambassador, she said, with all due respect, You have traveled across the galaxy to offer us protection from threats you cannot name, in exchange for most of our planet's resources. You want us to trust you completely while providing no evidence that these threats actually exist. The aliens' confusion was obvious. But this is how protection works. You cannot defend yourselves, so we defend you. Kim Tae-ho wiped tears from his eyes. Ambassador, I think there has been a misunderstanding about who needs protection from whom. 3 days after the alien ambassador's visit, Lee Min-ae sat in her laboratory staring at data that made no sense. The Galactic Protection Alliance had agreed to share some of their historical records as a gesture of goodwill. What she found in those records kept her awake at night. She picked up her phone and called Nam Ji-hoon. He answered on the first ring. Dr. Lee? It's 3 in the morning. Ji-hoon, I need you to come to the lab. Bring your best equipment. I think we have a problem. Nam Ji-hoon was Earth's best cyber warfare specialist. He had started as a computer hacker in college, then joined the military to use his skills for better purposes. Now he worked with the Space Defense Initiative, protecting Earth's networks from any possible threats. He arrived at Lee Min-ae's lab within an hour, carrying a bag full of computers and scanning devices. What did you find? He asked, setting up his equipment on her desk. Lee Min-ae pointed to her computer screen. Look at this data from their historical records. According to the Alliance, this sector of space has been under constant attack for the past 500 years. Raiders, pirates, cosmic horrors, everything they mentioned. Nam Ji-hoon studied the data. Okay, that sounds bad. What's the problem? Look at the dates of the attacks. Lee Min-ae highlighted several entries on the screen. Every single attack happened more than 200 years ago. After that date, nothing. Complete silence. Nam Ji-hoon frowned. Maybe the threats moved to other areas? That's what I thought too. But look at this. Lee Min-ae opened another file. These are the Alliance's current patrol routes. They go around this entire sector of space. Not through it, around it. Why would they avoid an area they claim to protect? Nam Ji-hoon sat down and began typing on his laptop. Let me see if I can access more of their database. Sometimes the interesting information is in the files they don't want to share. While Nam Ji-hoon worked, Lee Min-ae called Yang So-ra. Yang was an economist who specialized in analyzing trade relationships between countries. If anyone could understand the financial side of the Alliance's offer, it would be her. Yang So-ra arrived just as the sun was rising. She looked tired but alert, carrying a tablet full of economic models and calculations. I've been working on this all night, she said, sitting down next to Lee Min-ae. The Alliance's protection deals are very interesting from an economic perspective. How so? Lee Min-ae asked. Every species that accepts their protection gives up between 50 and 70% of their resources. In return, they receive defense services and some technology. But here's the strange part. None of these protected species ever seem to develop their own advanced technology or become independent. Nam Ji-hoon looked up from his computer. That sounds like they're keeping these species dependent on purpose. Exactly, Yang So-ra said. Look at this pattern. Species joins the Alliance, gives up most of their resources, receives basic protection technology, never advances beyond that point. It's like they're being held back deliberately. I think I found something, Nam Ji-hoon said. His fingers moved quickly over his keyboard. I managed to access some of their internal communications. Listen to this message from 6 months ago. He played an audio file. The voice was clearly alien, but the translation software converted it to English. Sector Command. This is Patrol. Fleet 7. We have completed our survey of the Terra system. The inhabitants show no signs of advanced space technology. They appear to be ideal candidates for standard protection protocols. Recommend immediate contact. Lee Min-ae felt cold. They've been watching us, planning this. There's more, Nam Ji-hoon said. I found their actual survey reports on this sector of space. According to their own data, there have been 0 hostile encounters in this area for over 200 years. 0. This is one of the safest regions of space they have on record. Yang So-ra looked up from her tablet. So they're offering us protection from threats that don't exist. It gets worse. Nam Ji-hoon continued reading from his screen. I found financial records. The Alliance has protection agreements with 847 species, just like they said. But these species aren't being protected. They're being harvested. The Alliance takes their resources and keeps them weak. Lee Min-ae stood up and began pacing around the lab. It's a protection racket. They create fear about non-existent threats, then offer protection in exchange for everything valuable the species has. Her phone rang. The caller ID showed Bae Dong-soo, a military strategist who worked with Kim Tae-ho. Dr. Lee, Bae Dong-soo's voice sounded urgent. General Kim wants you to come to the Defense Center immediately. We've discovered something about the Alliance's weapons. What kind of something? Lee Min-ae asked. The kind that explains why General Kim was laughing yesterday? Lee Min-ae, Nam Ji-hoon, and Yang So-ra drove to the Space Defense Center together. The building was normally quiet, but today it buzzed with activity. Military personnel moved quickly through the hallways, carrying files and equipment. They found Bae Dong-soo in a conference room filled with computer screens and weapon analysis charts. Kim Tae-ho was there too, studying a holographic display of the alien ship. Show them what we found, Kim Tae-ho said. Bae Dong-soo activated a large screen on the wall. We've been analyzing every aspect of the Alliance ship that we can scan from Earth. Their weapons, their shields, their engines, everything. The screen showed detailed technical diagrams of alien technology. Here's what's interesting, Bae Dong-soo continued. Their weapons are designed for intimidation, not actual warfare. They're big, they look scary, but they're not very effective against real military targets. How can you tell? Yang So-ra asked. Energy output, targeting systems, ammunition capacity. Kim Tae-ho answered. These weapons are built to frighten civilian populations and destroy undefended targets. Against actual military resistance, they would be almost useless. Bae Dong-soo brought up another diagram. Their shields are the same way. They look impressive, but they're designed to stop primitive weapons like nuclear missiles or chemical explosives. Against more advanced technology, they would fail quickly. Lee Min-ae thought about the implications. So they're not actually capable of defending anyone against real threats? That's right, Kim Tae-ho said. But here's the really interesting part. Show them the navigation data, Dong-soo. Bae Dong-soo switched to a star map showing spacecraft routes through their sector of space. We've been tracking ship movements in this area for decades. Look at how Alliance vessels move through space. The map showed Alliance ships traveling in wide curves around their local area, never entering certain regions directly. They're avoiding something, Nam Ji-hoon said. Exactly. Now look at this. Bae Dong-soo highlighted different routes on the map. These are merchant ships, exploration, vessels, research craft. They all use the same avoidance patterns. They all stay away from specific areas. Yang So-ra studied the map. What's in those areas they're avoiding? Kim Tae-ho smiled. That's what we're trying to figure out. But whatever it is, The Alliance is clearly afraid of it. Li Min-A looked at the data from a different angle. What if the Alliance isn't lying about threats in this sector? What if there really is something dangerous here? Then why are they offering to protect us from it? Nam Ji-hoon asked. Because, Kim Tae-ho said slowly, they don't know what the real threat is. They just know that ships disappear when they enter certain areas without permission. The room fell silent as everyone considered this possibility. You think something is already protecting this sector? Yang So-ra asked. I think, Kim Tae-ho said, that the Alliance made a very big mistake when they assumed Earth was defenseless. Bae Dong-soo brought up one final display. We intercepted this message 2 hours ago. It's from the Alliance ship to their headquarters. An alien voice filled the room, translated into English. Command. The Terra system inhabitants are refusing our protection offer. They show unusual confidence for a primitive species, requesting permission to demonstrate the consequences of rejecting Alliance protection. Kim Tae-ho looked at each person in the room. It looks like we're about to find out what happens when the Alliance tries to force their protection on someone. Li Min-A felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. What do we do? We wait, Kim Tae-ho said. And we see who's really been protecting this sector of space. Park Soo-jin stood in the United Nations emergency meeting room, watching the screens that showed Alliance ships moving into attack positions around Earth. 12 hours had passed since humanity officially declined their protection offer. The aliens were not taking the rejection well. They've positioned 37 warships in orbit, reported Shin Hai-won, Admiral of Earth's Deep Space Fleet. She had arrived at the UN building an hour ago, still wearing her Navy uniform. Their weapons are powered up and aimed at major cities. Kim Tae-ho studied the tactical display. Standard intimidation formation. They want us to see their firepower and change our minds. Ambassador Kethvar appeared in the center of the room through the same shimmering effect as before. This time his calm demeanor was gone. His large black eyes seemed angry, and his voice carried a threatening tone. Secretary General Park, you have made a terrible mistake. The Galactic Protection Alliance does not make offers lightly. When a species refuses our protection, they face the same fate as all hostile forces in this sector. Park Soo-jin remained calm. Ambassador, we appreciate your concern for our safety, but Earth has decided to decline your offer. You do not understand the consequences of this decision, Kethvar said. This sector of space was once filled with aggressive species who refused to accept protection. Pirates, raiders, and warlike empires controlled these star systems. Do you know what happened to them? Please tell us, Park Soo-jin said. They vanished. One by one, their ships stopped returning from patrol missions. Their colonies went silent. Their entire civilizations disappeared without a trace. The ambassador's voice grew darker. Some say they were destroyed by ancient horrors that sleep in the void between stars. Others believe they were consumed by cosmic predators that hunt in the darkness. Go Jae-sung, captain of Earth's most advanced stealth destroyer, was listening from his ship in orbit. He had been ordered to stay hidden and observe the alien fleet. Through his earpiece, he heard the ambassador's threats. All units, this is Captain Go, he whispered into his communications system. The aliens are trying to scare them with ghost stories. Ghost stories that might be true, came the reply from Admiral Shin Hai-won. Stay hidden and keep watching. Back in the UN building, Ambassador Kethvar continued his ultimatum. We are giving you one final chance to accept our protection. If you refuse, you will face the same mysterious fate as every other aggressive species in this sector. Ryu Yunbi, the diplomatic translator, had been studying the ambassador's words carefully. Something about his language pattern seemed wrong. She stood up from her seat. "Ambassador," she said, "may I ask you a question about these disappeared species?" Kethavar's large eyes focused on her. "What question?" "You said they were aggressive species, pirates and raiders, but you also said they refused protection. Were they attacking the Alliance, or were they simply independent?" The ambassador paused. They were hostile to the concept of galactic peace. "That's not what I asked," Ryuyunbi pressed. "Were they actually attacking anyone, or did they just refuse to join your protection system?" Kim Tae-ho understood what Ryu Yunbi was getting at. "Ambassador, it sounds like these species disappeared simply because they wanted to remain independent." "Independence from galactic law is aggression," Kethavar replied quickly. "Species who refuse to integrate into peaceful systems become threats to their neighbors." Park Soo-jin felt that familiar feeling in her stomach again. "So any species that refuses your protection automatically becomes hostile?" "The galaxy is too dangerous for species to remain unprotected. Those who refuse help become part of the problem." Admiral Shin Haya-wan spoke quietly into her communication device. "All units, prepare for possible engagement. The aliens are about to make their move." On his stealth destroyer, Captain Go Jae-sung watched the Alliance fleet through his sensors. "Admiral, their weapons are charging. Energy signatures are increasing across their formation." "Understood, Captain. Maintain position and stay hidden." Ambassador Kethavar raised his hand, and the air around him began to glow. "Secretary General Park, I am activating our demonstration protocol. You will witness what happens to species who refuse Alliance protection." The screens in the UN building showed the Alliance flagship powering up its main weapon. The massive gun began to glow with blue energy, aimed directly at the building where Earth's leaders were meeting. "This is your final warning," Kethavar said. "Accept our protection or face the consequences." Park Soo-jin looked around the room at her colleagues and advisors. Kim Tae-ho nodded slightly. Admiral Shin Hee-wan spoke quietly into her communicator. Lee Mine was recording everything on her laptop. "Ambassador," Park Soo-jin said calmly, "we decline your protection offer." The Alliance flagship fired. The beam of blue energy raced toward the UN building. Everyone in the room braced for impact. The energy beam struck something invisible and disappeared. Ambassador Kethavar's confident expression changed to confusion. "What? How is this possible?" On his stealth destroyer, Captain Go Jae-sung smiled. "Shield generators working perfectly. Admiral, good work, Captain. Phase 2, execute." Suddenly, Alliance ships began disappearing from the sensors. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone. The alien crews started sending panicked messages across their communication channels. "Fleet Command, this is Patrol Ship 7. Ships are vanishing from our formation. Repeat, ships are disappearing." "Fleet Command, this is Heavy Cruiser 12. We've lost contact with 15 vessels. No explosion, no debris, they just stopped existing." Ambassador Kethavar's face turned pale blue to white. No, this cannot be happening. The ancient horrors, they have awakened." "Fleet Command," came a terrified voice over the communications. "Something is moving between our ships. We can't see it on sensors, but ships keep disappearing whenever it gets close." "All ships retreat immediately," Kethavar shouted. "The legendary predators have returned! The Sector Guardians are active!" More Alliance ships vanished from space. The remaining vessels began moving away from Earth as quickly as possible. Fleet Command, this is Scout Ship 4. I can see something. It's like a shadow in space, but it's huge. It's moving toward the flagship. Ambassador Kethvar turned to Park Soo-jin with terror in his large eyes. You must evacuate your planet immediately. The cosmic predators are here, the same forces that destroyed all the other species in this sector. Park Soo-jin stood up and walked closer to the alien. Ambassador Kethvar, I need you to listen very carefully. There is no time. Your entire species is in danger. Ambassador, Park Soo-jin said firmly, those are not cosmic predators. Then what are they? Kethvar asked, his voice shaking. Admiral Shin Hye-won spoke clearly over the communication system so everyone could hear. Alliance Fleet, this is Admiral Shin Hye-won of the Earth Deep Space Navy. You are trespassing in protected space. Remove your vessels immediately, or they will be impounded. The alien ambassador stared at Park Soo-jin in complete shock. Earth. Deep Space Navy? That's right, Park Soo-jin said. Those aren't mysterious predators making your ships disappear. Those are our patrol vessels. And you brought weapons into our territory without permission. Captain Go Jae-sung's voice came over the speakers. Alliance flagship. This is Captain Go of the Earth Defense Ship Incheon. You fired weapons at a diplomatic meeting. Please prepare to be boarded for inspection. Ambassador Kethvar looked around the room at the calm faces of Earth's leaders. But this sector has been empty for 200 years. The ships that disappeared were removed by us, Kim Tae-ho said simply. We don't allow aggressive fleets in this area of space. But your technology? You're supposed to be primitive. Lee Min-ae looked up from her laptop. Ambassador, I think there's been a serious misunderstanding about who protects this sector of space. The remaining Alliance ships were fleeing as fast as their engines could carry them. On the communication channels, panicked alien voices could be heard reporting to their superiors. Command, the Terra system is not undefended. Repeat, Earth has advanced military capabilities. The missing ships in this sector, it was them. They've been here all along. Ambassador Kethvar slowly sat down in a chair that materialized beneath him. The Alliance has made a terrible mistake. Park Soo-jin nodded. Yes, you have. The question now is what we're going to do about it. Admiral Shin Hye-won's voice came over the speakers again. Secretary General, we have the remaining Alliance ships surrounded. They're requesting permission to leave the sector. Park Soo-jin looked at Ambassador Kethvar. I think we need to have a very different conversation about protection in this part of the galaxy. The alien ambassador could only nod in stunned agreement. Ambassador Kethvar sat in the UN conference room looking lost and confused. The proud alien who had arrived offering protection now seemed small and frightened. Park Soo-jin poured him a cup of tea and sat across from him. I think it's time. We explained what really happened in this sector of space, she said gently. Lee Min-ae opened her laptop and connected it to the main screen. Let me show you something, Ambassador. This is our historical record of this region, going back 250 years. The screen displayed a star map showing their local area of space. Red dots marked various locations throughout the sector. 250 years ago, when Earth first developed faster-than-light travel, this entire region was controlled by raiders and pirates, Lee Min-ae explained. They attacked merchant ships, destroyed colonies, and made space travel impossible for peaceful species. Kethvar looked at the map with growing interest. Yes, this matches our oldest records. But what happened to them? Kim Tae-ho stood up and pointed to different areas on the map. Earth happened to them. When our first deep space explorers reached this area, they found dozens of species living in fear. Merchant ships were being destroyed daily. Entire trade routes had been abandoned. The screen changed to show ship movement patterns from centuries ago. Merchant vessels moved in desperate zigzag patterns, trying to avoid known raider positions. Our first admiral, Lim Jun-ho, made a decision that changed everything, Admiral Shin Hai-won said. Instead of just protecting Earth, he decided to protect everyone. A new image appeared on the screen. It showed a middle-aged human man in an early version of Earth's Space Navy uniform. His eyes were kind, but determined. Admiral Lim established the Deep Patrol, Kim Tae-ho continued. Small groups of Earth ships that would secretly escort merchant vessels through dangerous areas. They never asked for payment. They never revealed themselves. They just made sure peaceful ships reached their destinations safely. Kethavar leaned forward. But how did you deal with the raiders? Very carefully, Admiral Shin Hai-won replied. We didn't want to become the aggressors. So we gave every raider group the same choice. Leave this sector and find honest work, or be removed. Removed how? Song Yu-jin, captain of Deep Patrol Station Alpha, spoke from her hidden command center through the communication system. We made them disappear, Ambassador. Not destroyed, just relocated. The screen showed new data. Charts displaying the gradual decrease in raider activity over 50 years. It took half a century to clean up this sector, Song Yu-jin continued. We captured raider ships, dismantled their bases, and moved their crews to distant parts of the galaxy where they couldn't hurt anyone. Some groups chose to reform and become legitimate traders. Others chose to keep fighting and were moved even farther away. Kethavar studied the charts. This is why the Alliance's historical records show all aggressive activity ending 200 years ago. Exactly, Lee Min-ae said. By that time, Admiral Lim had established what we call the Neutral Zone Accords. A new document appeared on the screen. It was written in dozens of different languages and signed by representatives from many species. Kang Se-ri was our chief diplomat back then, Park Soo-jin explained. She negotiated agreements with every peaceful species in the region. Earth would maintain safe passage through this sector. In return, everyone agreed to keep military fleets small and non-aggressive. But none of our records mention Earth's involvement, Kethavar said. Han Bin-woo, head of Galactic Intelligence, answered from his office. That was intentional, Ambassador. We didn't want credit or recognition, we just wanted peace. The screen changed to show modern ship tracking data. Thousands of vessels moved safely through the sector every day. For 200 years, Earth has maintained hidden patrol routes throughout this region, Han Bin-woo continued. We escort merchant ships, rescue vessels in distress, and quietly remove any threats that appear. Imnara, the communications specialist, added her voice to the conversation. We've been in contact with grateful merchant species for generations. They know someone is protecting them, but most don't know it's Earth. Kethavar looked overwhelmed. But your technology... When we scanned Earth, you appeared to be a primitive species. Oh Min-soo, the engineer who had developed humanity's cloaking technology centuries ago, had recorded a message before his death. His voice played through the speakers. The best protection is invisible protection. If no one knows you're there, no one can attack you. If no one knows you're protecting others, no one can threaten you to stop. Admiral Shin Hai-won smiled. Engineer, O's cloaking technology has been protecting Earth and this entire sector for 2 centuries. Our ships can move through space completely undetected. That's how you made our vessels disappear, Kethvar said with understanding. We didn't make them disappear, Captain Go Jae-sung said from his stealth destroyer. We transported them to a safe location outside the sector. Your crews are unharmed, and their ships are undamaged, but they can't return to this area with weapons. The screen showed current deep patrol operations. Dozens of invisible Earth ships moved through space, escorting merchant vessels and monitoring for threats. We have 13 hidden stations throughout the sector, Song Yu-jin explained. Each one coordinates protection for hundreds of trade routes. We prevent conflicts before they start and resolve problems before they become dangerous. Kethvar was quiet for a long time, processing everything he had learned. Finally, he spoke. The Alliance has spent centuries believing this sector was naturally peaceful. We never knew there was a guardian species maintaining order. That was the point, Park Soo-jin said. The best way to keep peace is to prevent wars, not fight them. But now you've revealed yourselves to us, Kethvar observed. Kim Tae-ho nodded. Because your alliance has become the threat we're designed to stop. You're using fear and intimidation to control peaceful species. That's exactly what the old raiders used to do. We're not raiders, Kethvar protested. You take 60% of a species' resources by force, Yang So-ra said, joining the conversation with her economic data. You keep them dependent and weak. You threaten them if they refuse. How is that different from what raiders do? Lee Min-ai brought up the Alliance's current protection agreements on the screen. Look at this pattern, Ambassador. Every species under Alliance protection has the same story. They start independent and prosperous. After joining your system, they become resource suppliers with no real technology or freedom. We provide protection, Kethvar said weakly. From what? Admiral Shin Hye-won asked. According to your own data, this region has been peaceful for 2 centuries. The only threats in this area are the ones you create. Han Bin-woo's intelligence reports appeared on the screen. We've been monitoring Alliance activities for 50 years, Ambassador. You've conquered 847 species using the same lies about non-existent threats. But some regions of space are dangerous. Kethvar argued. Yes, they are, Park Soo-jin agreed. And those are the regions where species actually need protection. But you don't operate in dangerous areas. You only target peaceful sectors like this one. The room fell silent as Kethvar absorbed this truth. So what happens now? He asked, quietly. Park Soo-jin looked around the room at her colleagues. Each one nodded slightly. Now, Ambassador, we make you a better offer than the one you made us. Park Soo-jin stood at the head of the conference table in the UN building. Representatives from 43 different species filled the room, some appearing as holograms, others sitting in specially designed chairs. It had been 2 weeks since the Alliance's failed attempt to force protection on Earth. Ambassador Kethvar sat near the front, looking very different from the confident alien who had first arrived. His flowing robes had been replaced with simple clothes, and his large eyes showed a mixture of shame and hope. Thank you all for coming, Park Soo-jin began. Today we're going to discuss a new kind of protection alliance, one based on cooperation, not control. Jang Hyun-ki, head of the newly formed Galactic Relations Department, activated the main display screen. It showed a map of the local sector with trade routes highlighted in green. For 200 years, this sector has been protected by what we call the Deep Patrol System, he explained. Earth provided security without asking for payment, recognition, or control. It worked because protection was given freely, not forced on anyone. A representative from the Kalani species raised her hand. She was one of 47 species that had been under Alliance protection for over a century. Minister Jiang, our people, have been giving 70% of our resources to the Alliance for generations. We don't have the technology or military strength to protect ourselves. Moon Sabiol, Earth's new trade negotiator, stood up. That's exactly the problem we want to solve. Real protection doesn't make you weaker. It makes you stronger. The screen changed to show economic projections. Under the Alliance system, protected species never develop their own defense capabilities. They become completely dependent. Our proposal is different. A representative from the Vorthak species leaned forward. His people had been under Alliance protection for 60 years. What kind of different? Earth will provide protection services to any species that requests them, Moon Sabiol explained. But instead of taking your resources, we'll help you develop your own defenses. Instead of keeping you weak, we'll make you strong enough to protect yourselves. Ambassador Kethvar spoke quietly. How can you afford to protect so many species without taking their resources? Kim Tae-ho answered from his seat. Ambassador, we've been protecting this entire sector for 2 centuries without taking anything from anyone. We know how to make it work. But the cost, Kethvar protested. The cost of preventing wars is much lower than the cost of fighting them, Admiral Shin Hye-won said. One Earth patrol ship can keep peace in an area that would require hundreds of warships to control by force. Kwon Tae-min, a former Deep Patrol officer who was becoming Earth's first galactic mediator, stepped forward. Let me explain how this will work in practice. The screen showed a detailed plan for sector-wide cooperation. Each species will contribute what they can afford to a common defense fund. Rich species contribute more, poor species contribute less. But everyone gets the same protection. A representative from the Zephyrian Commonwealth, a wealthy trading empire, raised his hand. What prevents stronger species from taking advantage of weaker ones? The same thing that's prevented it for the past 200 years, Kwon Tae-min replied. Earth will continue to patrol the trade routes and maintain peace. But now we'll do it openly, with your cooperation. Lee Min-ae activated another display, showing technology sharing agreements. We're also proposing to share defensive technologies with all member species. Not weapons for attacking others, but shields, sensors, and communication systems for protecting yourselves. You would give us advanced technology? Asked the Kalani representative. We would teach you how to build it yourselves. Lee Min-ae corrected. The goal is to make everyone strong enough that protection alliances become unnecessary. Ambassador Kethvar looked confused. But if you make everyone strong, what prevents them from becoming threats? Park Soo-jin smiled. Ambassador, what prevents you from attacking your neighbors right now? The Alliance fleet. No, Park Soo-jin interrupted. You don't attack your neighbors because you don't want to hurt innocent people. Most species are naturally peaceful. They only become aggressive when they're afraid or desperate. Yang Sora brought up economic data on the screen. Look at what happens when species feel secure. Trade increases, technology develops, art and culture flourish, peace is profitable for everyone. A new voice joined the conversation. It was Captain Song Yu-jin, speaking from Deep Patrol Station Alpha. We've been monitoring this sector for generations. Do you know what causes most conflicts between species? Resource scarcity and fear. When everyone has enough and feels safe, wars become extremely rare. That's impossible, HFY said. Conflicts are natural. Stronger species will always dominate weaker ones. Ambassador, Park Soo-jin said gently, humans are one of the younger species in this galaxy. Most of the species in this room are older and more advanced than us. Yet we've been protecting them for centuries. Why do you think that is? HFY thought for a moment. Because you chose to. Exactly. Strength without wisdom leads to conflict. Wisdom without strength leads to victimization, but strength combined with wisdom leads to protection. Moon Se-biol displayed the final proposal on the screen. Here's what we're offering. Any species currently under Alliance protection can choose to join our cooperative defense network. You'll contribute what you can afford. In return, you'll receive real protection, technology assistance, and help developing your own defense capabilities. What about the Alliance itself? Asked the Vorthak representative. Park Soo-jin looked directly at Ambassador HFY. The Alliance is welcome to join as well, but they'll need to release all species from their current protection contracts and return any resources taken under false pretenses. That would bankrupt the Alliance, HFY said. No, Yang So-ra corrected. It would transform the Alliance. Instead of being a parasitic organization that feeds off weaker species, you could become a genuine force for galactic peace. Kim Tae-ho stood up. Ambassador, your people have advanced technology and organizational skills. In a cooperative system, those abilities would be valuable assets, not tools for exploitation. But how do we know this won't just become another form of human domination? Asked the Zephyrian representative. Admiral Shin Hyewan activated a communication link to the Deep Patrol fleet. All stations, this is Admiral Shin. Display current patrol status. The screen filled with data showing Earth ships throughout the sector. Dozens of vessels escorting merchant convoys, monitoring for threats, and maintaining communication networks. As of today, Earth has 312 ships on active patrol duty in this sector, she announced. We're prepared to transfer command of this entire network to the Cooperative Defense Council, which will include representatives from every member species. The room erupted in surprised conversations. Even Ambassador HFY looked shocked. You would give up control of your own military? He asked. We would share control, Park Soo-jin corrected. The Deep Patrol was never about Earth controlling others. It was about maintaining peace. If sharing command makes that peace stronger, then that's what we'll do. Over the following hours, representatives debated, questioned, and negotiated. By the end of the day, 39 species had agreed to join the Cooperative Defense Network. The Alliance would have 6 months to release their protected species and reform their organization. 3 months later, Park Soo-jin stood on the observation deck of Deep Patrol Station Alpha, watching ships from 20 different species working together on joint patrol missions. Ambassador HFY stood beside her, now wearing the uniform of the Reformed Alliance Cooperation Service. Secretary General, he said, I have a question that's been bothering me. What is it, Ambassador? Why did humanity do this? You protected this sector for 200 years without recognition or reward. You could have built an empire, but instead you gave others the tools to protect themselves. Why? Park Soo-jin looked out at the peaceful ships moving through space, carrying goods and people between dozens of worlds. Ambassador, someone had to keep the peace, and we were already in the neighborhood. She turned to face him. Besides, the galaxy is a much more interesting place when everyone is free to reach their full potential. Below them, a convoy of merchant ships from 6 different species passed the station. escorted by patrol vessels from 3 others. No one was afraid. No one was taking advantage of anyone else. The sector had found its balance. "This is what real protection looks like," Park Soo-jin said. "Not controlling others, but giving them the freedom to protect themselves." Ambassador Kethvar nodded, finally understanding what humanity had been trying to teach the galaxy all along.